Harambe YouTube, it's Charles here, and as I mentioned a couple months back, I got a couple of big, long boxes of comic books from my buddy Steve, and I was going to go through them, see what I got, take a look at it, catalog them, bag up what needs bagged, and show you guys what I got. And yeah, I did some of the Witchblade books that I got from him, and some of the She books that I've also gotten. Did a video on those, I believe. But what we have right here is a huge stack of G.I. Joe that I want to get into. Some bagged and boarded, some not. But I just want to go through, give a cursory look at what we got. We got a bunch of extra comic book bags right here. I got these at Walmart.com. You get 100 bags for less than 10 bucks. You cannot beat that with a stick. So let's get into it. Starting off here, we have G.I. Joe number 140, starring Snake Eyes and the Transformers. That is a very cool book right there. I didn't know they had crossed over before this current run of the G.I. Joe books from the Energon universe. That combines G.I. Joe, Void Rivals, and Transformers into one universe. And that is being put out right now by Image Comics and Skybound. And this was Marvel Comics. Let's see. Is there a year on these? 1993 Marvel Comics. So we got that one bagged. That's number 140. Let's see if we can get a streak going. See how many we have in a row. We got 141. This is a very cool looking cover right here. And not in bad condition at all. We got some, a little bit of fading. And a little bit of wear and tear on them. But that's okay. These things are meant to be read. See if I can get it in the comic book bag here. Here we go. Okay, and then we have, what is this? This is not part of the G.I. Joe. Oh, wait a minute. Surprise, surprise. This is venturing off the topic a little bit. But we have hit in here one of my favorite characters, Spider-Woman. You want proof that she's one of my favorite characters? Check this out. I got my action figure right here of Spider-Woman making a surprise guest entrance into this video. This is Spider-Woman number 1 rematch with Death Web. I am going to read that as soon as we get done here. This is from 1993. It is in relatively good condition. The cover looks great. Yeah, the inside. Yeah, it's a very good condition comic book. There's some fading. So yeah, we took a little venture off of the G.I. Joe path. Like I said, I'm going to read that as soon as I get done making this video. Set you right here. And then we have G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, October 28th. This is from, yeah, this is a little bit rougher condition book. We got some bent corners here. Yeah, this is an old one. This is from, I mean, if we're looking at the price, 60 cents, I would say early 80s. I am still relatively new. Look at this. We got my boy Duke here. Yeah, I am relatively new to collecting. I started back about 6-7 years ago. 1984. Volume 1, number 28. Okay. So this is G.I. Joe 28. Oh, wow. Real American Hero, the same series that's going on right now from Image / Skybound. So this is very cool. Number 28 from Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And we have a whole stack of stuff here. Looks like we may have quite the collection going on here. This is going to be a little bit longer video than we're used to. We figured I'll try something different, a little bit longer form content to see what you guys think. Casual, conversational, discovering some good stuff here. We have number 29 with Destro on the cover. Again, they got some fading, but it is in very good condition. And I am very, like, I am hiding how excited I am right now to have, from the original run of G.I. Joe, and going back to 1984, that is unreal. And given to me by a friend who just wanted to get off of his collection and wanted to be in good hands. And I don't know how good my hands are, but they're definitely appreciated and they will be read. Okay, so now we have number 31, so we're missing number 30. Looks like we have Destro and Snake Eyes on the cover. The back is a little bit rough. We got some warping, we got some fading on it. The pages are a little bit brittle. We got some bent edges on the corner here. One thing I will take note of, though, is that art throughout all of these years, I mean, so, oh, look, we have Spirit Iron Knife here in this panel. The look has remained somewhat consistent. You know, outside of the material that's used nowadays and the actual obvious changes in what is accepted in the, you know, by the readership. I think when these were initially put out, it was more for the kids that were my age. In 1984, I was a little 6-7-year-old getting a hold of my first G.I. Joes, and these were marketed to that age. And so you didn't have a lot of, you know, death, a lot of over dramatized violence, but nowadays I think they've kind of stuck with the audience that has grown up, and G.I. Joe has grown up with it. And you get into the new books, they're not overtly gory or violent, but there is more mature, you know, subject matter than you would get in these early books. We have number 32, and this is in very, very good condition here. Looks like we have the Dreadnoughts, Zartan leading the way on the cover here. And in the comments, let me know your guys' experiences with the G.I. Joe. Do you know them from the original cartoon, from the Marvel comic books, from the toys? When I was a kid, G.I. Joe was it. G.I. Joe and He-Man. We got number 35. So we went from number 32 to number 35. Still with the Dreadnoughts on the cover, though. Yeah, when I was a kid, the toys that were really in were G.I. Joes, He-Man, and Transformers. Still love G.I. Joes. I collect the 6-inch scale from Hasbro now. The classified series. Back then I had the little 3-inch scale action figures, which I still have. I have this newer version of Sergeant Stalker, and actually have an original, what is his name? Roadblock from 1984. And I got 2 He-Man action figures and a small Transformer. I want to get into more of the toys. G.I. Joe number 36, so we're at sequence again. I love this. Look at that G.I. Joe tank on the cover. I do want to get into more of the modern He-Man and Transformers. They're just so expensive, and with my collection right now, it is mostly professional wrestling related and G.I. Joe. And, you know, getting into a whole lot of other franchises just gets so expensive because there's so much stuff out there. But if I can find a cost-effective Optimus Prime, I will definitely take advantage of that. Let's see here. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I was watching a jazz live stream and the band took a break. And since I hopped on later, I'm going back to the beginning of the set. So that's what you've been hearing in the background. I'm a big jazz fan. Actually a musician. I studied jazz and classical guitar in college. And yeah, I did a little bit of bass and drums. That's what I did in college. So let's see here. We got number 37, G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. We got a Joe on the cover here, jumping out on one of the twins on the cover. But yeah, if you wonder about me, the guy that's always on here talking about comic books, this is pretty much my exciting life. Comic books and listening to jazz and playing and recording a little music. The music that you hear in the beginning and end of the videos, those are actually written and performed by me. My little experiments in jingle writing. Let's talk about comics. I did that one. Looks like we have, oh, Sergeant Stalker on the cover, hiding in the weeds there. But outside of comics, music is a big joy of mine. And then if you're wondering, at the end of my videos, the jazz song that you hear is Dear Old Stockholm. I'm not sure, the arrangement I use is the Miles Davis arrangement. I'm not sure if he wrote it, honestly. But it's one of my favorite tunes. I recorded that here in my house, track by track. I have a little electric drum set I use, bass. What I use on there? I use drums, bass, guitar, and I played a little electric piano on it. My piano is not outstanding, but I have fun with it, and in a larger group setting or when I'm recording at home, I can fake my way through some chords to sound like I know what I'm doing. Okay, we have number 40. And the interesting thing here, let me see. Oh, okay. I just now noticed it, but it looks like we went from 40 cents with some of the issues when we started, and then about 60 cents. And then when we went to number 35, comic books went up to 75 cents here. So that is interesting. Let's see here. Okay, now we have number 41, G.I. Joe Real American Hero. We have Roadblock, and I think, is that Shipwreck on the cover? You got a slight bend on the back cover right here. Yeah, I know a lot of people, they get comic books and they like to just buy them and either display them or throw them away. But me, I read everything. And if you look around at my collection, I have thousands of books surrounding my living room. I don't have a big communal space, so to speak. I have my comic books, which go around the perimeter of my living room. A few action figure displays that I will show you guys. I'll give you guys a tour once I get it more organized. And then I have my weight bench and my dumbbells, which take up the lion's share of my living room. And then I have my musical instruments, mainly situated in my bedroom, where I do a lot of my recording. Okay, so we're at number 44, and we got Lady J on a motorcycle on the cover. But yeah, that's important. That's why it's important too that you guys get some bags. Most comic book stores will give you your books bagged and boarded. Some at no additional cost, but you know you keep them bagged and you keep them boarded. I don't have extra boards, but boards will prevent bending and damage of that type. And keeping them bagged will not only preserve them, but it'll help you to keep from getting bends and wrinkles and that type of damage that can really age your books. Here we have number 47. That's probably the worst condition that I've found so far as we're going through. But it is still readable. And like I said, getting it in a bag will definitely help me to get some more time out of it. Yeah, it's actually disconnected from the cover here. And again, like I said earlier, if you guys like this type of content, let me know in the comments. And we'll do a little bit more of it. Maybe even do a live stream or something. Come to think about it, this would have been a perfect piece of content to do for a live stream, but maybe next time. Okay, then we have G.I. Joe number 48. Again, a book that's not in very good condition, but still readable. We got Zartan on the cover. I am impressed at how many books we have sequentially. Here we go. And next we have G.I. Joe number 49 with Destro on the cover carrying a mummy. And this one is in very, very good condition. A little bit of blending on the edges. A little bit of fading on the cover. See why we're doing this. What else about we talked about my music. We talked about how I got into comics a little bit. If you're wondering where I am, if you can tell, you can probably tell by the name Old Nerd Reviews WY. I'm located in Central Wyoming. Yes, there are black people in Wyoming, born and raised actually in this house that I inherited after my mother passed. And so I ended up, like I said, being born here, moved out, went to college, did my thing, and then I moved back in about 8 years ago after my mom passed. So we have G.I. Joe, and now we have another price increase here with number 50. We're up to $1.25. Now, is this a regular? Okay, it's a special giant sized issue. G.I. Joe Special Missions. We got a little bend on the cover, but other than that, it's in great condition. I think that is a very cool thing, though, about these is that we're looking at books that are about 40 years old. You know, a little bit younger than I am. And so we got our hands on some history in this video. I didn't even, when I was a kid, comic books just were not as big a thing with, you know, me when I was growing up. It was more about the after school and Saturday morning cartoons. So if I knew they were making G.I. Joe in comic book form, I would have drove my parents crazy. We got this one right here, number 51. I think we got the Dreadnoughts again on a Cobra vehicle here. That is a great cover. And this is in very good shape as well. A little blunting on the back cover. But this front cover looks amazing. A little bit of light damage. But once I get these in the stacks, that'll take care of that light. And these bags will preserve the actual physical book here. But yeah, I was born and raised in Central Wyoming. Lost my light there. And a lot of people are surprised that, you know, Wyoming is more than just farms and rural areas. You would probably consider my city a small town. We got about 50,000 people. It's one of the biggest in Wyoming. And it's, you know, we don't have everything that the big city has as far as convenience. Like, we only have one comic book shop. So that's a downside, but we have enough of, you know, a music scene to keep me playing music occasionally. We have, you know, all the stores, 2 Walmarts, and it still has a nice small town vibe to it. Relatively safe. So we have G.I. Joe. This is number 52. Understand where we're going there yet. And not sure who. I should know who that is. The White Ninja. Don't know who that is. Is it Storm Shadow? Oh yeah, it is Storm Shadow. I just got this guy. Stay tuned for an unboxing of the Storm Shadow action figure from the new G.I. Joe Classified line. So that's who that is. Didn't notice him in the old school ninja suit. And then we have number 53 with Snake Eyes on the cover. Very good condition. The binding is wearing a little bit. And then we have number 54. G.I. Joe jumping, parachuting out of a airplane, it looks like. Is that Flint? I think that might be Flint. I believe so. Great cover. A little bit of damage on the cover, but that's quite alright. Yeah, these will be among some of the oldest books I have. The oldest I have are a couple of Conan issues, one of which I got given to me from my comic books, from a local comic book store proprietor. He knew that I was a big Red Sonja fan, and it was a first appearance of Red Sonja that was in very bad condition, and they didn't think they were going to sell it, and they knew I would appreciate it. And so they gave it to me, and it is, yeah, a very, very important book in my collection. May not be worth a lot, but I am a huge fan of Conan and Red Sonja, so to get the first appearance is real special for me. This is number 55. Looks like we have Destro on the cover, removing his mask. That is interesting. Okay, I am really digging this cover that we got coming up next here. We got a cover here for number 56. We got Roadblock and Scarlet, and I think that's Duke on the cover. And it's in great shape too. No minimal blunting, no bends, no tears. It is just in great condition. And a great cover. I love the G.I. Joe covers where you have action and movement and explosions. It really does remind me of those cartoons, which, if you did not know, you can actually watch for free now. I believe on Tubi. They have the original series and going up through the 90s of the G.I. Joe cartoons for free, so I'll pop that on occasionally. And then we have number 57, Destro and Lady J on the cover, side by side with Destro, which is interesting because in some of the newer issues of G.I. Joe, when they had the war for Springfield in the Real American Heroes series, the Joes ended up sort of siding temporarily with Destro and the Dreadnoks to save Baroness, who had been injured in the battle for Springfield, which led up to the final showdown between Destro and Cobra Commander, which leads us to where we are now in the Real American Hero series. I think we just got to number... Oh, that's not Real American Hero. I think we're about in the mid 320s. I started reading at around 300. Okay, then we have number 58, Cobra Commander Reborn. So it looks like we may be following maybe a slightly similar narrative path. Who knows? I will know once I get to reading all of these. Next we have G.I. Joe number 59, Real American Hero. This one is $1, and it looks like we have another price increase at number 59. This is a fun cover right here. This character, with the wings here, I do not remember his name, but he actually made an appearance in the last few issues of the G.I. Joe series from Energon. Uh, he was working with Major Blood to get revenge on Scarlet when she took a trip to Paris with CoverGirl. Okay, and then we have number 60. We're making some progress here, getting all these guys bagged up and looked at. Here is one again, great quality, a slight bend on the cover, not a lot of tears. Let's thumb through it and get a look at some of the art here. Good looking book. And again, if you're tuning in to the video here, these are BCW comic book bags, 6.6 and 7/8 by 10.5. These will fit everything from apparently these 80s comics up to the current stuff. Okay, and then let's see here, G.I. Joe, number 61, $1. That's in great condition. We got some a little bit of tearing on the back cover, but it's in good shape otherwise. We're up to number 62. Looks like the G.I. Joes have been taken prisoner. We got Sergeant Stalker there. Lonzo, I love that little mini afro going on there. Very cool look. And it's in good shape. Slight blurring on some of the edges, but in very good shape. And again, I'm not one of these collectors that just puts everything up and gets them slabbed and is worried about having perfect books. I'm about reading and getting into these stories. We have G.I. Joe number 63 with Snake Eyes and Scarlet on the cover. Creeping around there, that's a very good looking cover. Now I will frame some covers and hang them up, but still I read them, I don't get them slabbed. Anything that gets in between me and easily accessing the story, I don't want to mess with. So I do not have one slab in my collection. And it's in very good condition. See, I may run out of bags before we run out of G.I. Joe here. Now we're at number 64. Baroness, and is that Serpentor Khan, I think, on the cover? This one is in very good shape. A little bit of a little smudge on the back. What I might do is I might look into getting some of these pressed and cleaned. I do not do that myself. I leave that to the pros. Then we have G.I. Joe number 65. So we got some kind of space battle going on. Slight blending on the edges. Other than that, great condition. And then we have G.I. Joe number 66. You got some damage along the spine here, a little bit of bending here. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? We talked about music. We talked about Wyoming. Let's talk about how I got into comic book collecting. That actually came as an extension to G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 67. That came as an extension to my action figure collecting. Around 2019, I would drive around, when I got stressed out because I'm disabled, and you never get used to being disabled. I got injured on the job when I was around 29, 30, and have been disabled ever since. It inhibits my walking and creates constant pain. And one of the ways I dealt with that was getting into action figure collecting. And when I get stressed out, I would go on action figure hunts. Not even necessarily to buy, but just to browse. We're at G.I. Joe number 68. And when I was out driving around one night, and I noticed through the window of this new store in my neighborhood, some Funko Pops, which I'm still into occasionally. I'll get the occasional novel Funko, but they're not a target of mine. But as we know, where there's Funkos, there's usually other nerd stuff. So I stopped in, and the store wasn't even open yet. But the people there were so friendly. They greeted me and let me in and talked for a while. And it was actually a comic book store. And after they opened up, G.I. Joe number 69, Destro on the cover, great condition, very good condition. But after the store opened up, I ended up going back and just hanging out with those guys, and I would pick up a comic book here or there, and that's really what sparked the hobby. Was out driving around looking for action figures and stumbled into a comic book store, and I have been hooked ever since. My first comic books were 2 issues of Black Dynamite. And then I got into Jennifer Blood, Red Sonja, Vampirella, a lot of Dynamite stuff I got into. Issue number 70 here. Got a slight bend on the back cover. Actually not slight, but it's not a bad one. Get it straightened out here. We got a D&D advertisement on the back. That's one thing I do find fun about going through some of the older books, is you get to see the advertisements from that time period. I almost thought it was a video game advertisement, but back then I think Mario on Nintendo was still pretty advanced. I was still messing with Atari and ColecoVision around this time. Next we have number 71, featuring that Dreadnoughts on the cover. I actually have her action figure. I think her name is what is her name? Zartana or something? I'm not sure. I have her action figure though, displayed right directly across from me. Okay, we're actually most of the way through this stack here. We have G.I. Joe number 73. So we skipped number 72. And we have G.I. Joes jumping out of a Cobra helicopter. That is going to be interesting. Can't wait to find out what happened there. I find it amazing though that throughout over 40 years, the same series is still in print, even though it's with a different company now. So we have number 74, We got Destro, Baroness, and I think that's Duke on the cover. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up this video, post it. Thank you for sitting with me. It's been 40 minutes of talking about comics. We're going to do a part 2, depending on what you guys think of this. Well, I mean, part 2 is coming. We'll just continue off from where we're at right now, getting these organized. But it's nice sitting and talking with you about comics. You guys have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep reading them books. You know, I'm out.